Hello everyone and welcome back to another match day preview here on Stones TV. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Stones National Annual Boxing Day fixture where we always seem to be away, and this year we're against Tonbridge Angels. So in goal, Matthew Rowley is on loan from Reading. His previous National League experience is with Dover Athletic, and he is coming after Toby Stewart was recalled by Portsmouth back in October. And Nigel, it's never ideal to have to swap your keeper out during a season, is it?
No, but I think they've done all right with Rowley. I mean, it's always difficult, isn't it, as well? You're saying about changing the keeper, but obviously they had their previous keeper there for so long, and he's moved on to Folkestone now. So it's a bit like us after Lee Morgan, isn't it, really?
You trying to find your feet with someone.
Yeah, and you get these youngsters that come in and they've all gone on to have sort of like good careers now, but when you're sort of coming out of the academy and you're getting a loan in from a local, from like the local teams, the football league teams, like you never know what you're going to get because they haven't got that first team experience, and there's no hiding place for a goalie, is there?
No, not at all. You're always going to get caught out or found out one way or another.
And we know that from past experiences, don't we, of our goalkeepers that we've had. But you know, they're all right. You know, they're up there, aren't they? You know, they're not getting like every week and losing, 3 or 4 or 5. So that's going to give you a confidence as a goalkeeper, isn't it? And especially if it's your first loan out from these professional academies, and like I say, he's had experience at Dover as well, which was that level below. So, in that situation, it's for your defence to help your goalie out. If you know that he's not that confident and it's his first sort of pro club as such, it's about sort of integrating him into the team, and they've done an all right job of it. They're not, as I say, they're not down there struggling, and that can be difficult for keepers as well. If you're coming into a struggling team, isn't it? And you're conceding lots of goals week in, week out. You should kind of like thinking, what have I got to do?
And
to
you
get
might
a clean
face the
sheet.
criticism,
But they've got a couple of clean sheets behind him, and that's only going to give him the confidence going forward.
So, in defence for the Angels, Nazir Bakarin has some National League experience with Weymouth last season. He joined from Charlton Athletic in the summer. Jamie Fielding is in his 4th season with the Angels, having some past National League South experience with St Albans and Braintree. Ronnie Nelson signed from Colchester in the summer, having also played for Gillingham and Leicester. And Joe Tyree is on a dual registration with Sheppey United. Liam Vincent also comes under a defender, but not quite where he's playing this season. Obviously an ex-Stone as well, finds himself their top scorer, or joint top scorer this season, Nigel.
The way like Jay likes to build his teams, and he's getting players from the local area, which is what he did when he was here, isn't it? And you like to have your solid centre back and your players that you get in. I mean, you send their back coming from Colchester. Of course, we've got Alex Finney from Colchester. So, these managers, like we said on previous pods, they've got their links to certain clubs, and whether you're not so sure about a player or not, if the scout at that club says you can rely on this player, and what you need, you trust that sort of experience, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And if they can come in and be what you want and what you're looking for, and bring the younger players on, it's gonna, because it's not just about one player, is it? In defence, the same as a goalie, it's about the unit, isn't it? So, we'll come on to Liam Vincent, but he was another one that we got on loan, wasn't he, from Portsmouth? And to be fair, I think he did all right. We don't think we saw the best of him, but he's added goals to his game. So if you've got goals into your game from a defensive position, or i.e. being a defensive as a base, you're going to be part of that team, and you can contribute at both ends of the pitch.
Yeah, so, it's nice to have someone who can do a bit of both, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's when not being disrespectful to Tonbridge, but they're not one of the biggest spending teams in the league. So no one got a surplus. So every player they get in, and that they've got to add value for money, haven't they? So they've got to be able to contribute at both ends of the pitch. So, and Vincent fits into that bill, and he's had even since he's come away from us, he's had a lot of National League South experience. I think he was at Hampton and Richmond, wasn't he? And Worthing as well, and and he's always scored goals in those teams. So he knows the league, and he's a player that is a big player for them.
Yeah, so a defensive structure that Maidstone will certainly need to be on their A game to try and get past in that Boxing Day fixture. So the Tonbridge Angels midfield consists of Ryan Hansen, who they signed from Torquay back in February, a Dover lad who has played for his hometown club after starting off at Crystal Palace and Hull City. Taylor Maloney is a well-travelled Kent-based player, of course, Nigel, with experience from Bromley, Welling and Dartford. He signed for the Angels in the summer. Jeremy Santos scored the winner at Weymouth, and his performances led to a permanent move again this summer. A lot of incomings for the midfield this summer. Sean Shields is another ex-Stone playing for the Angels at the moment, and he ended up as joint scorer so far this season, and he got Jay's Player of the Season last season, so certainly one to keep an eye on in that game. And finally, Scott Wagstaff, over 300 EFL appearances with Charlton and Gillingham in his third season with the Angels, and is closing in on a century of appearances for the club himself. He has also recently replaced Sonny Miles as captain. So Nigel, a lot of very good talent in that midfield, and players who not only Maidstone are familiar with, but we've scouted and even considered bringing in ourselves, and have done in some cases.
Sean Shields is the one that stands out there, isn't it? Another ex-Stones, got him on loan. I think it was under the Harry Wheeler era, wasn't it? Incidentally, and I think as much as that era is sort of forgettable for most Stones fans, he was a player that really stood out in that. He was on loan from Ebbsfleet, I think, at the time, and so again another player that's got his roots in Kent. Scott Wagstaff, of course, all that EFL experience, played for Gillingham, obviously another Kent club, and I think he went away to Bristol City where he got his big move, but he's a Maidstone-based player as well. And Hansen, as you said there, Dover, but he's been away at Hull City and Crystal Palace in the academy, and down at Torquay last year, and all players that are good sort of players, and then Jeremy Santos as well, another player that we said it in the Farnborough preview, that managers know that sort of like their scouting networks, don't they? And Jay's, even when he was here, we used to get players in from Charlton, didn't we? It was the what's his name? We mentioned him in the previous video.
Striker, wasn't it? I can't even remember his name now. I know
Ollie Muldoon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ollie Muldoon, he was from Charlton. He was an up-and-coming prospect from them, and we had a few strikers as well, as you say, that are coming from Charlton. So
Viggers.
Viggers, yeah. Obviously, that was this year, that was the previous year, wasn't it? But it's good that for, like we've said, for not being disrespectful to Tonbridge, but if you can get players that coming from these academy that are not just like inexperienced players, but they're ready to make that step into the men's game, and they're coming into that environment. And you've got the strong characters like Scott Wagstaff in there, and with all that bags of experience, it can only help your progress. And for a club like Tonbridge, they can then get them going forward, and then as well progressing their careers at the same time. So it's all sort of like good signs for them. And we said it on the preview video, Tonbridge they're always in and around Maidstone. Whether they drop off, we don't know. But as it currently stands, it's like they've got a game in hand on Maidstone, and depending on the results of Saturday's game, they could be above us. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're that close. If they win their game in hand, they're into the playoff places. So if you're in and around the playoff places in this New Year Christmas period, you're having a good season, aren't you? Because this is where it starts sort of getting the good starters from the ones that are going to stay the course. So they're doing all right. In that top 10, and they're ready to pounce if one of the so-called bigger teams have a drop off.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Nigel. And of course, like you say, very strong midfield for them, and certainly something that the Maidstone boys are going to have to really up their game for to try and keep a hold of in that fixture. So up front for the Angels, Ryan Clark is on a dual registration with Kings Langley. Mo Dabra is in his second season with the Angels, currently having National League experience with Chippenham and Worthing, as well as Chelmsford City, where he signed from. Noel Layton scored 41 goals, none of which were penalties for 3 Bridges last season. And of course, Harry Ottaway is a recent signing coming in from Dorking Wanderers. He arrived last month and has played against the Stones many times in the past, so another experienced player coming into that side. Hayden Velvick is on a dual registration with 3 Bridges. He is also a prolific academy player probably there to try and sweeten the deal a little bit with that Leighton deal that we spoke about just a second ago. And McKees Evans is in on loan from Stevenage, having already played for St Albans this season. So Nigel, bag full of goals for Tonbridge in this side so far, and obviously they're bringing in Ottaway as well, an experienced head who can probably try and guide some of those younger players a little bit more, can't he?
Yeah, like you say, though, that experienced head, and we've said it, you look at their spine of their team, and it's all that experience, isn't it? There,
100%.
The whole thing, and again with a dual registration players, they're on dual reg with the teams in the lower leagues, so you'd imagine they'd be sort of training with Tonbridge and playing for the other team. So they're transferring that what they learn in Tonbridge training and putting that into match practice, because you can don't matter how many players you sign, you can only put 11 out on the pitch, can't you? So like we said, if you've got such a small squad like Tonbridge have got, you don't want to have players just sitting there doing nothing. So it's probably a good way of them to sort of incorporate them into their squad. And then put them out and getting game time at the lower levels.
Keep them match fit and stuff.
Yeah, and like you say, Leighton's come in 41 goals is impressive, isn't it? No matter what level of football you're playing
That's
at.
it,
And if they're hungry, they want to transfer those skills to a higher level. And then you're playing alongside somebody like Ottaway that's got that experience of playing at the higher level. It's a good combination. It's like experienced and younger players all sort of working off of each other, and the younger players will give, because when I always go, Ottaway is obviously coming to the end of his career now. But if you're up and competing against a young pup kind of thing, you want to sort of show
off a little bit.
Don't you? So that would only help Tonbridge. So again, it's going to be interesting to see what they're like. I know it's at Tonbridge, but there will be a lot of a Maidstone following there. So how they react, these kind of players, to having a big away following, because I imagine not a lot of teams bring a lot to Tonbridge
and stuff.
So
dual reg, they might not be used to a crowd.
Yeah, exactly. So again, those sort of experienced players will help them with that, won't they? So then talk them through the games and help them relax and get them performing to the best of their abilities. And if you can't get up for playing against a team like Maidstone, that after last season and being your local rivals as well, it's going to be a good test for these younger players, isn't it? So, like you've said, Maidstone definitely need to be on their game, and every year we sort of go into this fixture, don't we? Because we've had this fixture for a few years now in the National South. You look at the Tonbridge pods and all their sort of fans, and think, this is our best chance of beating them. This is our best chance of beating them. They're getting better each year, so we've got to improve that
we've got to
step
try
as well.
So, a little bit,
and like George has said in the past as well, all the form book goes out the window when you come to these kind of games, because it's a cup tie. No, it's not a cup tie, but it's a local derby, and it is like a cup tie over Christmas and Boxing Day period, and they're going to be up for it. So we've got to be up for it as well. We can't go into it thinking, we're coming off the back of a 14 game unbeaten streak and all this kind of thing. You just got to take it as a one-off game and prepare for that. And I'm sure George and Craig know that. That you're not inventing the wheel in that. They know that. So George has played in many derbies, and Craig has West Brom and Wolves games and that. So he knows how to prepare the players, and I'm sure they'll be able to really kick on and put in a statement performance. Yeah.
So again, as we said in the previous match preview, a lot of experienced players with goals capability up front, so a lot for the Stones to keep an eye on over this Christmas period. So not too many mince pies in that back line. I think we should be all right.
Yeah.
So as Nigel touched on just there, of course, form doesn't really come into games like this over the festive period, and especially when you chuck a local derby in the mix, but we'll go over it anyway. Tonbridge started off the season with their first 9 games unbeaten, and in their league matches since then, they only had 5 more wins. That was until a trip to Boreham Wood at the weekend. But a formidable home record sees them only losing 2 defeats so far this season. So it's going to be a big contest, Nigel, to see whether the Stones can carry on that really impressive 14-game unbeaten streak, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like you say, form goes out the window, but you know, you're looking back at their recent form, and they did lose at home to Enfield. So, and that's, I think Enfield's only away victory this season. So again, you know, you can't look too much into it, can you? It's just going to be, you know, which team's going to come out on top and what teams got the most consistency and just manages the game properly, you know. And you'd like to think that with Maidstone, this squad that, you know, we've got together with playoff games and cup games we had last year, you know, they've got that experience behind them now of managing these cup ties. And we've said it in previous pods, you know, if you take it as a one-off game, George has got, you know, so much experience. Even in that first season when he came in the National League, in the National League, and we were with the cup run, really struggling. You know, the FA Trophy went to Eastleigh, didn't we? We had that really impressive 4-0 game and beat Notts County on penalties.
Liquid
and
football. You
know, exactly. So, you know, George has got that. You know, he's got that in his locker, in his CV, in his management locker, that he can pass that on to these players, and they've got it themselves. They know, you know, what it means to the fan base, and hopefully they'll deliver another good Boxing Day performance.
Yeah, well, you'd like to think so. The Stones unbeaten in their last 6 games against Tonbridge Angels, with 3 wins in their last 4. Jordan Higgs, actually the last scorer, not for Maidstone, in that tie. And of course, looking back in history, they did win 6 of the 8 games between 2008 and 2014, but the times have changed and the Stones more recently are back on top. So we'll have to see how this big derby goes. So if you find you've had too much turkey and mulled wine on Christmas Day, then have no fear, because Chris and James will be there at Tonbridge Angels from 12:40 to give you all the action on that Boxing Day fixture. If you are going, don't forget it is a 1 p.m. kickoff, not your usual 3 o'clock we have in the National League South, so don't miss out on that one. If, of course, you can't make the game, like I say, catch the boys on Stones Live, and you can also catch them on the Hot Take on YouTube afterwards, and of course on the official match highlights on Stones TV. So Sean's left in his preview notes in his absence that I'm supposed to sing about Hark the Herald Angels Sing at this part of the video. I'm not quite going to do that. I think I'll leave the singing and dulcet tones to Sean, but I can say let's hope the Angels have a pretty insignificant Christmas this time round with the fixture against us. Of course, if you've enjoyed this video, do leave a like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. You can find other episodes and previews coming in the future by just searching the Maidstone United podcast on Google. So, in typical Stones fashion, Nigel, let's wrap this thing up with a very traditional Christmas.
Come on, you Stones!